Welcome to Sinful's Horror Stories, where all the people go to get their horror needs met. Sit back, relax, stay sinful. Story number 1. Friday nights were always the best growing up. My friends and I were kids in the 90s, and our Friday nights always consisted of TGIF, all the top shows that kids watched at that age. We always watched Step by Step, Family Matters, and Hanging with Mr. Cooper, among others. My house had a large bonus room down in the basement that we would all camp out in, have snacks, watch TV, play video games until the sun came up Saturday morning. We were 13 years old the night this happened. It was 3 a.m., the dead of night, and my friend said he heard a scratching sound on one of the basement windows. The weather was very windy and rainy throughout the night, so at first we thought that it was a branch. I paused the game we were playing and heard the scraping sound once more. I shut off the TV and killed all the lights in the room, and there was a clear as day reflection of a man peering in the basement window. We could see his reflection in the TV screen. My friends and I locked eyes in this moment of terror, didn't make a single sound. I figured if we pretended not to see this man, that maybe he would just leave. I turned the TV back on and asked my friends if they wanted some more popcorn. I made sure I spoke loud enough for this mystery man to hear me and think we were not aware of his presence. I casually walked up the stairs and then booked it to my parents' room. I yelled for my parents to come downstairs and that there was a man outside our basement window. My dad grabbed his handgun and sprinted down the stairs, quietly opened the front door to check the perimeter. He didn't want to let this would-be intruder know. He knew that he was outside. My dad checked our whole house and the surrounding area, found no one. He did find something all the more terrifying, though. There were zip ties and a large hunting knife about 6 feet from the basement window. The man must have been spooked when he heard my dad sprinting down the stairs. My friends and I were shaken up for the next few days. I hope this man never comes back or harms anyone else in the future. We decided to never spend the night in the basement from here on out. Story number 2. This winter we've had more snow than in years past. I live in Chicago and it has been so cold all season long. I'm a 15-year-old female and live with my single mom in a home just outside of the big city. Our home is a split level and has a really run-down old basement. I try and avoid the basement at all costs. It reminds me of the basement from Home Alone that Kevin tries so desperately to avoid. Our kitchen has a door that leads down to a basement. We have a lock on that door because our basement has a door that leads to the back alley in the street behind our house. We have 2 deadbolt locks on the door that leads to the street. Our washer and dryers are also located in the basement, so it can be very scary going down there alone. There are several windows in the basement that we have curtains above for some form of privacy. This past Friday afternoon, after I returned home from school, I needed to start a load of laundry. It was around 5 p.m. and almost dark outside. My mom gets off work at 7 p.m., so I was home alone for a couple of hours at least. I opened the door to the basement and proceeded down the stairs. Each stair creaks louder than the one before. I was halfway down the staircase and heard a small noise right near the washing machine. I swear to God it sounded like someone had knocked something off a shelf and whispered, "Oh shit." My heart stopped. I turned around and bolted up the stairs and locked the door to the kitchen. I know what I heard. Someone has to be in our basement hiding. I called 911 and they told me to go to a room and lock myself in until they arrived. I locked myself in my mom's room, which is at the top of the stairs. Her room is the only one with a lock on the door. I was in her room for maybe 60 seconds when I heard quiet footsteps heading up the stairs. This can't be the police, because they would have announced themselves first off. I am so scared right now. My mouth is dry, and I can't quiet my breathing to save my life. A knock resonates through the thin wooden door. "I know you're in there, little girl." "Ha ha ha. You shouldn't have called the police like that. I know for a fact they won't be here for another 10 minutes. I have a police scanner. Open the door, it'll be more fun that way." I have no words to say or muster in this moment. I literally saw moments of my life flash in my mind in a flashing light sequence. This would be it for me. I would either be kidnapped or much worse fate. I yelled, "I have a knife," knowing full well that I didn't. The man did not respond. A loud crash fell upon my ears. He had an axe and was breaking down the door. I closed my eyes and prayed for a miracle. All is silent now. The room goes black. I wake up sometime later to a police officer putting a blanket around me in an ambulance. Apparently, right after this intruder hit the bathroom door, the police arrived and shot him. He was only feet away from me when he fell from the gunshot. I passed out from the shock of it. I know this seems like a movie and so far from the truth, but unless you went through it, shut your mouth and don't judge me. Story number 3. I've never considered myself a believer in the supernatural, but in recent months I've been having some strange experiences. They are difficult for me to explain. Honestly, I fear I may be going insane. Perhaps I should start at the beginning. I was in a relationship with a beautiful young woman named Vanessa. We were very close and I truly thought she would be the one. Then 6 years ago, she was killed in a drunk driving incident. Her death devastated me to the core. For the next couple of years, I completely shut down emotionally, especially around the opposite sex. Eventually, I met another young woman named Jennifer. We seemed to hit it off well and she helped me climb out of my self-imposed shell and open up again. In time, I fell in love with her and I wanted to take the next step, but I was still haunted by the loss of Vanessa and I feared I may lose Jennifer the same way. The one night, I had a dream about Vanessa. In the dream, we were sitting on my living room couch just shooting the breeze. It all seemed so real. "I've missed you so much," I said. "I know. I miss you too," she replied. "Life just hasn't been the same without you. I'm still finding it so difficult to move on." "Have you found another woman?" she asked. "I'm not sure I want to talk about it." "You have found someone, haven't you?" She didn't sound upset, just curious. I sighed in defeat. "Yeah, I guess you could say I have. There's no question I've fallen for her, but what? I don't wish to betray your memory," I said while barely holding back tears. She smiled and held my hand. "My time in that world is over. Although I cherished our time together, I don't want you to remain in grief and agony forever, not even for me. She will make you happy. Don't be afraid to start over." I opened my mouth to say more, but that's when I woke up. I spent the next day or so pondering what I had gone over with myself and my subconscious. Perhaps it was time to start over. I confessed my feelings to Jennifer, and much to my delight, she reciprocated. Eventually we married and I had fathered twin boys. That's when things began to get weird. It happened one night when my twins were 2. I was in the living room playing with them after a long day at work, while Jennifer, who is an excellent cook, was in the kitchen fixing our favorite dish. Started out normal enough like any other night. Then I could have sworn I heard a voice say, "Alarm, malfunction." I looked up at the sound of the voice. "Did you say something, honey?" "No." "Huh? I could have sworn I heard something." "I didn't hear anything." I shrugged it off and went back to entertaining my sons. A few minutes passed and I heard it again. "Alarm, malfunction." There it goes again. "What was that, sweetie?" "You didn't hear it? It said alarm malfunction." "I haven't heard a thing, dear." An awkward silence ensued. Then that voice came again. "Alarm malfunction." For reasons I can't explain, I somehow felt compelled to obey this odd voice. I got up from the living room and walked towards our burglar alarm in the hallway. Lo and behold, the machine was indeed malfunctioning. Fortunately, I'm a decent mechanic, and I was able to fix it in a few minutes. Then I had a pleasant dinner with Jennifer and the boys. That night, we woke up to the sound of an alarm blaring. Someone had broken into the house. Whoever it was, they were not deterred by the burglar alarm, because we could hear them roaming around downstairs. My wife and sons hid in our bathroom while I pulled my 12-gauge shotgun out of the closet. I opened the bedroom door and I saw a man dressed in black ascend the staircase. I pumped the shotgun. He stopped dead in his tracks. He remained frozen in place until the police arrived to arrest him. Jennifer and the twins would spend the rest of the night in a nearby hotel, but I stayed at home to gather my thoughts. My mind wandered back to that strange voice. Who was it? Where was it coming from? But I was less worried about that than the fact that I was hearing voices. After all, only crazy people hear voices, right? Then again, it did save my life as well as my family. But that's just a coincidence. 2 months later, I had forgotten about the whole thing. I was scheduled for a job interview with a large technical firm. Was very excited about it, because this new job would help me to better support my family. I was driving to the company's main building downtown, humming my favorite songs to myself to pass the time. Then the voice returned. "Don't go in there." It sounded like a forceful whisper. I turned around and looked in the back seat to see if anyone had somehow managed to sneak into my car. But no one was there. I arrived at the building and get my briefcase out of my car. As I approached the building, the voice spoke again. "Don't go in there." I stopped in the middle of the parking lot. As before, I felt compelled to listen to what the voice was telling me, but this time, I tried to ignore it. Soon as I took one step closer, "Don't go in." The voice was louder and more insistent. It sounded more clear than it had before. It was definitely female. I stood there for several minutes, finally throwing my hands up in frustration. I turned around and walked away from the building and headed towards a bar 2 blocks away. I felt I needed a drink, and badly. Before I could take a sip from my scotch, I heard a very loud explosion. I rushed out of the bar and saw something truly horrifying. The top floor of the building where my interview had been scheduled was on fire. It was burning furiously and people were running in the streets screaming. Jennifer embraced me tightly when I returned home, relieved that I wasn't hurt. But as for me, my mind was all over the place. That night I couldn't sleep. I was thinking about the strange, disembodied female voice that I had heard today and that one night 2 months ago. I was beginning to fear that I was slowly losing my sanity. Suddenly, it occurred to me exactly who it sounded like. Vanessa. But it can't be. She's been dead for 6 years. No, I'm going crazy. That's the only explanation. Feeling a need to clear my head, I got up out of bed and went out for a late-night drive. I hadn't been driving for 5 minutes when the voice reappeared. Danger ahead. I ignored it and pressed forward. I was approaching an intersection. There didn't appear to be any other cars on the street that night. Danger ahead. I began driving faster. Danger ahead. I entered the intersection, and I heard a loud crash. Next thing I knew, my car was flipping over, and all I could hear was the sound of broken glass and twisted metal. My next memory was of some strange, empty void, although my vision was blurry, and I couldn't make out what it was. The voice spoke once more, but in a calmer and reassuring tone. It's not your time yet. Your family needs you. Farewell. I love you. A bright flash of light, and I woke up in a hospital bed, surrounded by my friends and family. If you're having a hard time believing this story, I don't blame you. I understand that these accounts sound like the rambling of a crazy person, but I just can't ignore everything that happened. Remember the dream I mentioned earlier? Was it really just a dream or a message from beyond? Am I going insane, or is my dead girlfriend watching over me, far beyond the grave? Wow, that last story literally just gave me chills. I hope you guys enjoyed these stories tonight. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, do so now. Leave a like on the video. Email your true scary stories to thesinfulsavant@gmail.com. I'll leave my email in the description box below as well. I want to thank everyone that submitted the stories for tonight's video. They were truly a pleasure to narrate. Till we meet again, stay sinful.